Welcome once again to another edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great Mother's Day weekend. A lot to get into here on the show. First and foremost, don't forget that you could catch me on WQVZ 1700 AM Mission Radio every Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. And it's a great show. I've been doing this show for about 6 years. I used to be on WQEE for 3 years, and I miss the whole producing a show in an hour and putting the commercials in and sending it to Ryan O'Neill, the station manager. He's back on the radio waves, and he's given me this opportunity. I found time in my busy schedule to go ahead and just get a show done at least once a week. Possibly in the future, the guests could be coming back, and I could be doing more than once a week. But right now, we're going to do this thing once a week. Last week, I had a special Wednesday show because I was out of town. I'm back to the old format. I'm doing this show on Mondays. There's a possibility that I could do this maybe on a Friday, especially when we get closer to football season. But it is a great time to be a sports fan. A lot to cover, local and national here to the Chattahoochee Valley, including Columbus Lions getting a big win on the road against the Jersey Bearcats. Columbus United FC ends up getting a win over Apotheos FC. And the Cleanstones had a 5-game series. They're supposed to have a 6-game series, but it was shortened because of the inclement weather down in Biloxi. And they ended up splitting the doubleheader yesterday on Mother's Day. I'm wearing my Stone shirt. I'm excited, getting ready for this exciting 6-game series at Synovus Park against the Knoxville Smokies. And I'm hoping to go to several Cleanstones games, including on Friday, which I'm excited about. I'll get into that later on in the show. And then we had the NBA lottery, NBA playoffs. The Braves take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. The passing of Bobby Cox, what he meant as far as one of the greatest managers of all time. And then we'll go into the high school baseball playoffs. I will break down the brackets for the GHSA, GIAA, and the AHSAA. So let's go. Let's get right into the show. Hey, the Columbus Lions are 4-0. They get the 78-26 victory over the Jersey Bearcats. This was the first road game of the season in the AAL. And there was also a watch party at Poor Decisions Sports Bar and Grill. And the Lions just came out the gate. I watched this game on YouTube. They came out the gate and they were hot, 44-6 at the half. Blaine Espinoza, he's starting to look like his older brother. I remember watching Mason Espinoza play. He was an outstanding quarterback. Blaine Espinoza, he's got the same traits as his brother. I think that this Lions team is for real. They were able to handle the Jersey Bearcats 78-26 to go to 4-0 on the season. They will take on the Peach State Cats this Sunday afternoon. It is Faith and Family Night, and it's going to be an afternoon game at the Columbus Civic Center and on a rare Sunday, but it's an opportunity to catch the Columbus Lions in an afternoon game, and I think that's really awesome, and they do a great job. Coach Black and Roger Beck, they do a great job promoting the Columbus Lions, and so good luck to the Lions as they take on their in-state rival, the Peach State Cats, and then they go on the road to take on the Mississippi Wolfpack. So they got a busy schedule the next couple of months, but it's always great to just keep an eye on what the Columbus Lions are doing. All right, let's go ahead and switch to soccer. Columbus United FC. I watched this game. They took on Apotheos FC at Silverbacks Park over the weekend. And it was scoreless going into the 70th minute, and Justin Bangura with the goal to put them up. And then 2 minutes later, Desenio Hall ended up getting a goal in the 72nd minute, and that's all she wrote. They did surrender a goal, but Columbus United FC gets their first win of the season, 2-1 over Apotheos FC, and they will take on Apotheos FC for the second leg of the Chattahoochee Cup, and that will be at A.J. McClung Memorial Stadium this Saturday. I will be on the call on the Columbus United's Facebook page and YouTube channel. I am excited once again to be the voice of Columbus United FC as they've got several home games coming up. And in their third year of existence, this is their second year in USL2, we're going to have coaches shows at the Pro Shop at Highside Market. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know the new head coach, Stuart Flaherty. Stuart Flaherty comes from England. He's got a lot of experience coaching, and he is the new coach on the pitch, taking over for Coach Brett Teach. Had a great relationship with Coach Teach. He actually texted me. He said he was looking forward to watching the games. I'm excited that, he still is involved in wanting to see Columbus United FC, but just top-notch organization, starting with the ownership with Michael Hitchcock and J.D. Hester. You got Director of Operations Paxton Bush and the General Manager Elaney Hitchcock. I am really excited that we can get Coach Flaherty on some coaches shows coming up in the next couple of weeks. But I'll be on the call, AJ McClung Memorial Stadium for Columbus United FC and Apotheos FC, year 2 in the USL. And let's talk Columbus Cleanstones, because the Cleanstones, they were supposed to take on a 6-game series against the Biloxi Shuckers. However, that series got shortened. It got shortened by 5 games. They had a period of 3 nights in a row with rain. They won the first 2 games, 7-4 and 8-7. Lost 7-6 on Thursday night, and then they had some rain in the forecast on Friday. That game got rescheduled, and then Saturday, they were supposed to have a doubleheader on Saturday. They got rescheduled, and because they had 2 days of rain, they decided to play the doubleheader on Mother's Day. They lost 9-6 in the first game, and then they won 6-1 in the second game, and right now, the Columbus Cleanstones are 16-16 on the season, and they will be back at it tomorrow. First pitch, 7:06 against the Knoxville Smokies. I tell you what, I'm really excited just to see the Columbus Cleanstones and players like David McCabe and Tristan English, and they've got some great Adam Zabrowski, Drew Compton. They've got some great players. You cannot forget about Ethan Workinger. I know he's only batting 171, but he'll get going. I actually think that the Columbus Cleanstones right now, second place in the Southern Division. I think that they're right where they need to be, but they got a huge series against the Knoxville Smokies. Right now, they're in second place in the Southern League North. So you've got the Montgomery Biscuits currently in first place. The Cleanstones are a half game behind the Biscuits, followed by the Pensacola Blue Wahoos, which a team they have yet to play. But they had a very good series with the Biloxi Shuckers. And just taking a look at some of the top players in the Southern League, you look at the leading home run leaders in the Southern League. Kevin Alcantara, that is a player from the International League. So, and every now and then, I will get a league that I'm actually looking at the stats and I see, International League. No, David McCabe, 10 home runs, 27 runs batted in, and he is leading the entire Southern League with 27 runs batted in. Actually, the leading home run leader is Blake Burke from the Biloxi Shuckers. And then you also have Xavier Isaac from the Montgomery Biscuits, who has 8 home runs on the season. The leading hits leader for the Columbus Cleanstones, that would be Lisandro Espinoza, who's got 27 base hits on the season. I cannot wait to be out at Synovus Park, where the Cleanstones will be taking on the Knoxville Smokies. And you're probably wondering, well, Richard, you're kind of like fishing for these stats and everything, but you're wearing a Cleanstones shirt. I thought you were a Cleanstones fan. I am. But the experts, I'm here to plug a podcast you should check out, Stonercast with Ricky Rogers. Also, Jack Johnson, when it comes to Cleanstones coverage, Jack Johnson has got you covered. You can catch him on Sports Vision's 92.1 FM. That's your official flagship station for the Columbus Cleanstones. All right, let's go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, I'm breaking down the brackets in the GHSA, AHSAA, and GIAA. You don't want to go anywhere. It's a Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. We'll be back after this. And welcome back here to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. It's time to talk brackets in high school baseball. We got GIAA brackets. Obviously, we've got second round games that are happening this week. Brookstone is awaiting the winner of Calvary Bullock Academy, which takes place today, 5 o'clock first pitch. You can catch that game on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And then over in 3A, Valwood is going to be taking on Westfield School. That's something to just to keep an eye on. Westminster Schools of Augusta taking on Southwest Georgia. Brentwood is taking on Gatewood. John Millage taking on Frederica Academy. These are all 3A. First Preparatory Christian taking on the number one team in single A, Citizens Christian. How about Heritage? The Heritage Hawks out of Noonan taking on Edmund Burke. We've got Stratford Academy, the 3C, taking on Bethlehem Christian. Tatnall is taking on Athens Christian. And we also have FPD, the number one overall seed in 4A. They are going to be taking on Strong Rock. Heritage Prep is taking on Vidalia Heritage. Robert Toombs taking on Thomas Jefferson. Tiff Daria taking on Deerfield Windsor. I know this bracket is just all over the place. Southland Academy taking on Trinity Christian. And there's a method to my madness. It's because the brackets they have on the GIAA website is actually not updated. Piedmont Academy taking on Pinewood. Oh, it's a great time to be a baseball fan. But how are they doing over in the GHSA? Well, we still have one local team remaining. That is the Troup County Tigers. And Coach Tanner Glisson, they were able to get the win over North Hall. And now they will be taking on Peach County. That is in the 3A semifinals. Troup County, Peach County is going to be taking place on May the 14th on Thursday. I'm not doing anything that day. I might travel up to I-185 and check out the Troup County Tigers to see if they can make it back to the state championship, the defending 3A state champions. All right, we're going to go down the brackets. 6A. Carrollton, they got a tough series against Mill Creek. They were able to get by Mill Creek. Carrollton moves on. They will be taking on Etowah. Etowah's a powerhouse in baseball. They won a state championship a couple of years ago. North Paulding, I'm telling you, they love their baseball over there in Dallas. They are taking on Parkview. Parkview had a very tough series with Cherokee. So those are the four teams remaining. And remember that their championships will be May the 25th through the 27th at Coolray Field. Let's go to 5A. 5A, we've got Houston County. How about those Hoco Bears getting the win over Woodward Academy? And they will be taking on Pope. So I'm looking to see exactly if they are going to be the home team or not. But I think our friends at Middle Georgia Sports Live's got some invested interest in that. Brunswick taking on Loganville. Those are the four teams remaining. 4A, we've got Kell taking on Cartersville. And then we got Benedictine taking on North Oconee. 3A, I already mentioned Troup County taking on Peach County. Calhoun is taking on Pickens. 2A, we've got Pierce County taking on Cook. And then Franklin County, who were the runners-up last year, they were the 19th seed. They were able to upset Union County. They were able to upset Thomaston. And then they upset Appling County to make it to the semifinals, where they will be on the road taking on Morgan County out of Monroe, Class 1A Division I. We got Gordon Lee taking on Worth County. And Bleckley County is taking on Vidalia. And then Class 1A Division II, we've got Lanier County taking on Baconton. And then we've got ECI taking on Charlton County. Can't forget about the private bracket. Keens Ridge Christian taking on Holy Innocents Episcopal. And then Wesleyan taking on North Cobb Christian. Let's swing over to the other side of the river over in Alabama. We're going to start with the 7A bracket for the start with the 7A bracket for Alabama. I almost said University of Alabama. No, but you know what I mean. All right, so let's take a look at the state playoff brackets. The Central Red Devils, they are awaiting the winner of Auburn Enterprise. They are going to be in a game 3 winner-take-all matchup. This got pushed to the right because of the inclement weather that came this past weekend. Thompson, they're taking on Hewitt-Trussville. So Central awaiting the winner of Enterprise-Auburn, and that should be happening today. So we'll see what happens in that bracket. Let's move over to 6A Alabama baseball playoff bracket. We've got Hartselle is going to be taking on Hazel Green. And then we've got Spain Park taking on Northridge. So we got 4 teams ready to go in the 6A. Let's go to 5A brackets, as we've got Moody taking on American Christian Academy. And then we've got Faith Academy that's going to be taking on Briarwood Christian. Let's take a look at the 4A classification for the AHSAA, as we've got Central Florence taking on Westbrook Christian. And then we also have Opp taking on Bibb County. Now, this bracket, we have local investing interest here to the Chattahoochee Valley because Glenwood was able to reach the semifinals. The 3-time state champions, the defending AHSAA state championship, the team that's won 25 championships, just so happens to take on their longtime rival, Lee Scott Academy. It's Glenwood Lee Scott on Wednesday for a doubleheader at Tim Fanning Field, Bill Bowers Park. Who's going to be awaiting the winner of that? Gordo, who was in the championship game last year, taking on Piedmont. Let's take a look at the 2A bracket for the state of Alabama baseball playoffs. The 2A bracket's got Red Bay taking on Mars Hill Bible, and then you've got GW Long taking on Artayan. And then finally, we've got the 1A bracket. Not a whole lot of 1A teams around the Chattahoochee Valley, but still want to give them some love. Hubertville taking on Appalachian, and University Charter taking on Fayetteville. So those are the baseball brackets. I know that we could touch up on soccer brackets a little bit. The Columbus Blue Devils and Lady Blue Devils actually fell in the semifinals of their soccer playoffs. So just real quick, I'm going to go over the girls bracket for soccer because Pike County is going to be taking on Coahulla Creek in their championship. The boys, they ended up losing to Savannah Arts. Savannah Arts is actually going to be taking on Pierce County, but those are the brackets for the soccer championships. Remember, we do have Calvary, Brookstone, and Pacelli boys all remaining, as they all had first-round byes. They'll be in the quarters for the GIAA soccer playoffs. The Pacelli girls are going to be hosting in the quarters. They were the 4 seed. And then we got the Brookstone girls on the road taking on the Kings Academy up in Woodstock, Georgia. Wednesday, I will be on the call for Brookstone, Stratford Academy, the 2 seed Brookstone. They only won 4 games last year. They won 11 this year. They have one of the most electric soccer players in the Chattahoochee Valley in E.J. Siraj. And I think that Brookstone is got a tough matchup with a very talented Stratford Academy team. We interview Coach Ian Jones from Stratford every week. He's our soccer correspondent on Inside the GIAA. And I know they moved this game because of graduations. So that they just wanted to make sure to shift this to the left because of graduation. But that's going to be a very tough 2-7 matchup for Brookstone and Stratford Academy. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, NBA lottery. Who are the real winners of the NBA lottery? And we also have NBA playoffs later tonight. You don't want to go anywhere. It's the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. And we'll be right back after this. We are back here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Don't forget, the NFL schedule release is coming out this Thursday. I cannot wait. Guess what? The Atlanta Falcons will be taking on the San Francisco 49ers at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It will only be the second time in NFL history that the 49ers have been to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I can't wait to see when that game is going to be. And guess what? It's not going to be during a drill weekend because I retired from the military, so I don't even have to worry about that. Last time they played in 2022, I had to miss it because I had drill that weekend, and it was in October. But I just want to know exactly when that is. if I could fit in my schedule. I've been almost, ever since I've lived in Atlanta, I've been to just about every 49er Falcons game. And I'm just curious to see when that is, try to make some time. And I think that talking about it on Sports Talk Radio, we do have the local angle because Michael Williams will be returning to his home state in Georgia. But I cannot wait for that NFL schedule release. Hey, I didn't realize this. We had the NBA lottery yesterday. That was weird to have the lottery at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday, on Mother's Day. But we did have the NBA lottery, and the Washington Wizards end up getting the number 1 overall pick. And the first idea that came to my mind was, well, the Wizards have Anthony Davis and they got Trae Young. They weren't necessarily tanking this year. They've been a bad franchise for a while now. But this is a very solid draft. I think that there are 3 players that could be superstars right away, make an impact. AJ Bastanza, you have Darren Peterson, and you have Cam Boozer. I think these 3 can be instant all-stars. I haven't been excited about a draft like this since the draft that had Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker, and they had some other good pieces, but that was a really exciting draft. I was a huge fan of Jabari Parker, but AJ Bastanza, he made $6 million in NIL money at BYU. Is he a player that could put the Washington Wizards over the top and get them to the Eastern Conference in the playoffs? I do think that the Washington Wizards, over the years, they've had players like Bradley Beal, John Wall, and Otto Porter. They've had some good pieces. I remember that team that actually took the Hawks to the brink in 2015. But since then, Marcin Gortat, they've had Nene. I don't understand what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. They got rid of Bradley Beal. They've got some good pieces. They've had Kyle Kuzma, but now Anthony Davis, Trae Young. Does AJ Bastanza want to go there? Because that's a big question. Washington, the number 1 overall pick. I like Utah. Utah with Lauri Markkanen, and then you got Ace Bailey. I think they got some good pieces, but the West is stacked. So whoever goes to Utah, same with the Memphis Grizzlies. You're playing alongside John Morant. Jaren Jackson, does he get shipped off? The Grizzlies have let players go. They've had all this depth with Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks. They have let so many players go. Is that a good spot? Here's a spot that I think if they get the right pick, I think that they could be back in the playoffs and they could be relevant once again. The Chicago Bulls have the number 4 overall pick. I think they do have some good pieces that you could build around that could try to get the Chicago Bulls back in the playoffs. And then the Clippers fleece the Indiana Pacers. I didn't think that the Pacers were tanking, but when I saw that they were one of the worst teams in the NBA, all because of one player was out, Tyrese Halliburton out for the season. This is the same team that went to the the NBA Finals 2 years ago. And I don't think they were tanking, but I don't understand why they traded for Ivan Zubac. And then the Clippers ended up getting their protective pick. It drops to number 5, and so the Clippers have their number 5 pick. It doesn't make any sense, but Indiana was the biggest losers this weekend. They really were, because the Clippers have their pick. At number 6, the Brooklyn Nets. You got the Sacramento Kings at number 7, and the Atlanta Hawks, number 8. This is a very solid draft. I think they can get a pretty good player. You've got Darius Acup. You've got some players that are down in the bottom of the draft that could still be key contributors, and that could, be an all-star, average more than 10 points a game. I don't necessarily see any bust. I see the top 10 picks just being, solid contributors. Even Zachary Rizachet is not a bust. He's a solid contributor. He just doesn't get a whole lot of minutes for the Hawks. Hawks hopefully can get a good pick that can help build what they were building off of, getting to the second round of the playoffs. And then follow Dallas at number 9. It's going to be a different team with Cooper Flagg, Kyrie Irving. They're going to have a pretty good piece. And then Milwaukee. Does Giannis stay in Milwaukee? They're going to have a top 10 pick. Could they possibly get somebody that could play alongside Giannis? So I think that and then you got the Warriors at number 11. By the way, Steve Kerr is returning to the Warriors. I know I got on this show a couple of weeks ago and said that Steve Kerr was not going to come back. They were not going to renew his contract. The dynasty was over. Well, they decided to renew his contract for 2 more years. He is a good coach. But I just think that core, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, which, by the way, Draymond Green was fantastic yesterday on the roast to Kevin Hart. But that team, the dynasty is over, and that team is just getting old. And I think that they gave up on Jonathan Kuminga a little too early on that one. So hopefully they can get a good pick with the 11th pick overall. Hey, we had NBA playoffs last night. The Knicks ended up sweeping the Philadelphia 76ers 144-114. Joel Embiid came back for the Sixers, but it didn't matter. The Knicks dominated this series from start to finish. I think that the Sixers just ran out of gas. When they beat the Boston Celtics, they gave it all they had. Joel Embiid was back. On paper, the Sixers, if they were fully healthy, because I know some people who are Sixers fans, they were very optimistic this year. We got Paul George. We got the number 3 overall pick, VJ Edgecombe. We've got Tyrese Maxey, who's a superstar. We've got Joel Embiid. The Sixers have not been the same since Ben Simmons quit on them. That team that lost to the Hawks in the second round of the playoffs, which had Shake Milton and Forkmoss. They've had Matisse Thybulle. They had Tobias Harris. They had some great pieces, but just not the same. I was rooting for Nick Nurse because I'm a huge fan of Nick Nurse. I think that Toronto did him wrong. I think the Sixers will be fine, but this is the Knicks' year. I have said it before. I said it last week. The Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. Whoever the Knicks play in the Eastern Conference Finals, whether it's Cleveland or it is Detroit, they do play tonight, and Detroit has a 2-1 series lead. I could see the Cavaliers winning this game because it's going to be at Quicken Loans Arena. So there's a possibility, or Rocket Mortgage Arena, whatever it's called now. But there's a possibility that could be a long series, and the Knicks could be waiting for their next opponent for a while. And now we're talking about the rest versus rust factor. All right, we also had the Timberwolves beat the San Antonio Spurs, but Wemby got ejected. He was trying to retaliate, trying to protect his player. He hit Naz Reid, and that really was the difference. Anthony Edwards had 36 points. The Timberwolves tie up this series 2-2. I still think the Spurs win this in 7. I think because they're going to have Game 7 in San Antonio, I think they find a way to win it. They have done it right. You draft Wemby, then you draft Stephon Castle, you draft Dylan Harper. You got your core 3 players, including De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes. You've got some experienced players, but I just think the Spurs may not be ready to take down an OKC Thunder, who I think is the best team in the NBA. Even if Luka plays tonight, I think the Thunder sweep the Lakers, and then the Lakers start panicking. What are we going to do? Is this going to be LeBron's final game? Is he going to retire? Is this his final game tonight? That's the big question. Because there's some people that think that he'll play one more year. Does he play for the Lakers? Is this his final game in a Laker uniform? A lot of question marks. Getting ready to talk about that later tonight. All right, we did have the WNBA season opener, and congratulations to the Atlanta Dream. They ended up defeating the Minnesota Lynx by 1 point. Angel Reese had 11 points, 14 rebounds in her Dream debut. But the big game that had all the eyeballs was the Dallas Wings and the Indiana Fever. You have Paige Beckers going up against Caitlin Clark. That was a great game. It was nationally televised. I'm glad that the WNBA is here because it's a great league. I talked about how Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese move the needle, and the WNBA needs these type of players. But we have other players that can be marketable players that are superstars in this league. All right, Major League Baseball. The Braves are not playing today. They will actually be at home against the Chicago Cubs and the Boston Red Sox the next 6 games at Truett's Park. They took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. And I really think this has been a statement for the Atlanta Braves to take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. Obviously playing with heavy hearts with the passing of Bobby Cox. Last week, the passing of Ted Turner. But I think this Braves team is resilient. They don't have everybody yet. It was good to see Spencer Strider back. Ronald Acuna is still on the IL, but the Braves are going to continue pushing through this season. Right now, they have the best record in Major League Baseball. They got a 9-game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies, Marlins, and Nationals. And they were able to beat the Dodgers, who's getting ready for a 3-game series with the San Francisco Giants. So I'm happy. I'm excited. The Giants aren't having their greatest season, but right now the Dodgers are tied with the San Diego Padres for the best record in the NL West. Over in the American League, don't look now, but the Tampa Bay Rays have won 8 out of their last 10. They currently have a 1-game lead over the New York Yankees. And then the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs, who, they did lose 2 straight, but they have won 8 out of the last 10. And they're one of the top teams in the majors. That's going to be a great series, the Cubs and the Braves, for 3 games at Truist Park. And then the Braves will be taking on the Boston Red Sox. But they will have a tribute to Ted Turner and Bobby Cox, these pioneers that really put the Braves on the map. Ted Turner putting the Braves on the map with TBS. Bobby Cox, who got the Braves to 14 straight division titles. They won that World Series in 1995. I was there for his last game. It was the divisional series against the San Francisco Giants in 2010 when the Giants came out of the dugout and they applauded him. It was a very emotional time for the longtime skipper who unfortunately passed away, and the tributes have been pouring for the legendary manager, Bobby Cox, who's one of the best managers of all time. Hands down, you put him up there with Tony La Russa, you put him up there with Sparky Anderson, Casey Stengel, Connie Mack. Say what you want. He only has the 1 World Series, but the longevity of getting the Braves relevant every year for 14 straight years and then managing that team all the way up until 2010. I think he could have went 5 or 7 more years being the manager, but what a great legendary manager that is gone too soon. And we're thinking about Bobby Cox as well as Ted Turner this past week. It's really been a tough week for Braves fans. All right, college baseball news. The University of Georgia win their first SEC title for the first time since 2008. They will be hosting a regional. I'm excited about college baseball because we will have their selection show. I get excited because, the regionals and seeing these mid-majors try to get an upset to possibly go to the College World Series. We've seen teams like Coastal Carolina, Cal State, Fullerton in the 90s. It's great just to be a college baseball fan. I wish this was more marketable. It's been a bucket list, a thing of mine to go to Omaha for the College World Series. But that's just because I'm a big sports fan. I love college baseball, college softball. The bracket is set for the Women's College World Series. Don't forget that we've got the NAIA Women's College World Series. That's going to take place at South Commons Softball Complex next weekend, Memorial Day weekend. And we've got that. I've always had a vested interest in that. And the Columbus Sports Council has done a great job giving me credentials because my alma mater, Freed Hardman, was in it in 2022. It was a big deal. I got excited about it. It was great. But it's just great being a sports fan in the Chattahoochee Valley. And we got a lot of sporting events, including the GHSA baseball playoffs. So I am excited about that. All right, before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the World Cup. The matchups are set. The groups are set, and I'm going to go through all the groups. Remember, we got 48 teams this time, except 32, and the defending World Cup champions are Argentina. By the way, there's a friendly the first weekend of June at Auburn, Jordan-Hare Stadium, between Argentina and Iceland. That's going to be a crazy matchup, and I know that there's going to be a lot of soccer fans that are going to try to get tickets to that. That's going to be a hot ticket, especially with Lionel Messi. But let's take a look at Group A. Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and Czechia, also known as the Czech Republic. By the way, South Africa and Czechia are going to be playing in Atlanta. I think Mexico and South Korea get out of this group. Remember that, you might have more than two teams. The top two teams make it, but there's going to be at-large teams that will make it to the group of 32. They're going to have, since it got 48 teams, they're going to narrow it down to 32, so they'll have an extra round. And Atlanta's got 8 World Cup matches, including one of those games in the group of 32, and then in the semifinals. So how cool is that? Group B, we've got Canada, the other host team. So remember, Mexico, Canada, and the United States all have automatic qualifiers. Canada is taking on Bosnia and Herzegovina, Qatar, and Switzerland. I think that Bosnia and Switzerland make it out of the group. Canada might get an at-large bid. I think Canada is a sneaky good team. They could be a little scary. All right, Group C, Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. They are calling this, with the exception of Haiti, they're actually ranked the worst team according to the FIFA rankings. But Brazil and Morocco went to the semifinals last World Cup in 2022. We could end up having a group of death. They're talking about this is a group of death, but I think that Haiti is not as strong as Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. I think Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland all make it out into the group of 32. And then also, Morocco is playing Haiti in Atlanta. So just, get your calendar ready for that. I know several people that might be interested in that. The group that the United States is in, there should be no question that the United States should get out of this group. They should win all 3 of these matches. Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. Look, this is what happens. They play down to their competition. I remember in 2022, they tied Wales. And then they tied England. That was not good. They had to beat Iran to get out of the group, and they did. But I think they are ranked 12th according to the FIFA World Rankings, and I think that the United States should be getting out of this group, but I'm going to say that the United States and Paraguay are going to get out of this group. Group E, Germany, Curacao, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. I think Germany and Ecuador get out of this group. Group F, oh man, you talk about a group of death again, possibly. You got 3 strong teams, the Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, and Tanzania. You got Group G, Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. Group H, Spain, Cape Verde, which that game will be in Atlanta. Spain and Saudi Arabia, that game will also be in Atlanta. And then Uruguay. Another strong group. Group I. France, Senegal, Iraq, and Norway. You've got Group J, the defending World Cup champions from 2022, Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. So in Group I think France and Senegal make it out of that. Norway could possibly be that 3rd team. Group J, I think Argentina and Austria make it out of that group. Group K, we've got Portugal, Congo, Uzbekistan, and Colombia. I think Portugal and Colombia make it out of the group. And then finally, Group L, England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. All right, I changed my answer. That's the group of death right there. I think Panama is decent. They made the World Cup over the United States in 2018. They're a decent team in CONCACAF. But England, Croatia, and Ghana? Oh, my. Oh, those 3 teams, they could definitely make it out into the round of 32. I'm excited that the World Cup is in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And I'm also excited that Atlanta is going to be the host site for 8 of those soccer matches. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, we are out of time. But thank you, everybody who has watched the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also catch a replay of the show on Apple and Spotify, and you can listen to us anytime you like. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.